This man was also there. Nick Eatman, DallasCowboys.com, brought to you by the WinStar World Casino and Resort, proud to be the casino of the Dallas Cowboys. Please game responsibly. Very intrigued by the headline of Nick's column on the website. It's not hard to identify. You say it the or the problem in all caps?
I think when you go all caps, I think it's the. I mean, the people in Columbus would say that, but I'm not referring to that so much. But the.
Okay. It's not hard to identify the problem. Nick Eatman, what is the problem?
Brad Sham's call just said it. I mean, that was the first quarter, wasn't it? Like the second drive, and he was like, no pressure. I mean, there's no pressure. That is the ultimate problem of this football team right now. Nobody on the defense scares the quarterback. Nobody. Caleb Williams goes to the line of scrimmage. I don't think he's going, where's Fowler? Where's Nealon? Where's whoever? I mean, no offense to them, but none of them. And that's the problem. And he sits back there. Yes, the coverage, we see all that stuff, but I don't know, guys. I'm starting to wonder if that was always the problem. I mean, that's what I'm starting to wonder, because I don't think the guys. If you look at the three players that you're like, why are they playing like this? They've been here for 5 years. So has Micah. Makes me wonder if maybe this was always a problem.
Nick, who in that group of edge rushers would you say, when you're saying like who's going to come through, they're not generating their pressure, who's the one right now that's most disappointing for you? Is it Ezraku as the second-round pick? Like, is that the guy that you think should be generating more pressure, or who would it be?
It's got to be Fowler for me. I mean, I haven't noticed them. And if I'm, I'm not the guy that sits there and goes to the PFF grades and all that kind of stuff. So I couldn't tell you if his win rate is better than, I don't know. I'm just saying I haven't noticed him making really any plays. And I know that was a guy from a veteran, experience, come in here and do what you did last year, or even the year before. He's been the one that I just haven't seen much of. And yeah, as a Raku too, you'd want to see there. Sam Williams. I mean, none of them have done anything really consistently.
Nick, if you were to break down the blame game, the pie, how much of the pie would be the secondary versus the front?
I mean, I that's kind of what I wrote. That's the very first thing I said about this. I've heard it in the past, chicken and egg theory. There's a great pass rush, leads to great secondary. Does a great secondary give you a great pass rush? And I don't believe it's the latter. I think it starts up front. I think it's the guys up front, it's the scheme, it's whatever it is that they're not getting pressure, generating pressure, that they said that you could always dial up pressure. I don't agree with that. I mean, because I haven't seen it. And I think there's been times in 3 games where they have absolutely had to get pressure. And I'm just not convinced that these quarterbacks are good. Russell Wilson isn't I don't think he's turned back the clock, but he certainly looked that way against the Cowboys. And same with Caleb Williams, best game of his career. I mean, this defense is making these guys look great, and I think it starts from the fact that they're comfortable.
Nick, when you look at the issues in the secondary, we've heard a lot from Shoddy, Jerry, Matt Eberflus. They're all talking about communication, and that communication is a big problem with this. If I told you that they could have their best possible combination of communicators in the secondary that they've got on the roster, and it would be a significantly less talented group than the one they have out there right now, do you think they're playing better? Like, do you think the communication is legitimately that big of a problem?
Yeah, it is. But, I mean, I'm not trying to sound like a broken record here, but it's a problem because you shouldn't have to be talking that long. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I mean, they could send a postcard to each other on how long they're back there covering. So I get it. Yeah, I mean, communication, who's got this guy? Yes, that's all great, but I think it's needed. But I just can't get over the fact, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I just can't get over the fact that I think it all stems from the fact that they're not even remotely getting close to the quarterback. And so that's when you're starting to see these things. I don't think Deion Sanders and Darren Woodson, with the greatest communication that they have, would sit there and cover receivers, James Thrash out of the from the Eagles or Redskins or whatever he played for, a guy like that. I'm just saying I don't think if Charles Haley wasn't rushing from the edge, I don't think it would have mattered.
Nick Eatman, DallasCowboys.com on the D&M Leasing Hotline. What was it like in the locker room?
It was a little testy. It has to be expected. Dak was pissed, just with the loss. He was fine, but it was just. I think the whole thing was everybody was kind of like you would expect them to be. Guys that didn't want to talk, and that's always the case. It's all great after a win, but when you don't win and you don't play well, then it's like, nah, there's guys that don't want to talk. That's part of it. I just hope that they don't make him a captain, and I didn't see that, but that's one of the things. I think it's all great to say I'm the captain, I got the C, and all that kind of stuff. But in games like that is when you need to stand in front of your locker and give some answers. And because the other guys don't have the answers either. And I'm really, honestly, not calling anyone out.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's glad that certain people that didn't want to talk aren't the ones that are being called captains.
Which defensive start do you think was worse between this year or last year to begin under Zimmer's defense?
Ooh. You kind of have to remind me a little bit. I know
New
it was
Orleans,
bad early. I'm trying to think.
Baltimore.
Oh, yeah. Okay, bad. Yeah, worse. That one was really bad. I think that one was probably worse. Because you didn't really know the reasons back then. Now, Deron Bland wasn't playing reading either one of those. But Micah was, and for me to sit here and say that, hey, this trade has really, really hurt them. And I get it. Down the road, it should help them.
Yeah.
And the Kenny Clark addition, they're doing what they said they wanted to do, which was stop the run. But I don't think they realized that they had this big of a problem in the pass defense. So I would say last year was a little bit worse just because you did have the All-Pro player there rushing the passer.
Were you there for Shoddy's presser?
I was not. I was in the locker room. I heard a little bit about it.
So your colleagues, I'll be interested, for you to maybe, chat with them or kind of do some, recon today or this week. But Nate and Barry and Isaiah and them, they were a little bit critical of Schottenheimer for kind of like a ho-hum delivery. And I was just curious to get your thoughts on that. There's pros and cons, right? It's like, I'm not going to go up here and blast these guys. Did he blast them behind the scenes? Was he fine with them behind the scenes? I'm just trying to get an early read for Schottenheimer after these types of games and in these moments. So I don't know, maybe you could check in on them or see what. I'm trying to get a read on how he's going to handle this stuff.
Yeah, and it is hard to see that in the post game press conference on. That because that's what we see, and that's what the media and that's what the fans see. Behind closed doors might be a different story. I've kind of heard over the last few months that it is a different story. The front that you put on there is obviously not the same one that you give to the team, and that's just the way it goes. That's what we see. That's what those guys are talking about. That's what they refer to. Guys, I remember being in some of the worst losses, like a playoff loss on the road, season over, could have won, should have won. And the first thing you hear is, how are we doing, guys? And I'm like, wow, like that. But that's who he was. Yeah. That's who Jason was. But it was kind of like, how are you doing? It was just shocking sometimes. But it taught me that what they say right then, is not necessarily the same. And I've told y'all, I think I've told y'all the story about the 1999, my very first trip. I remember my two very first road trips. They couldn't have been different in terms of how they turned out. One was a 41-35 overtime win over the Redskins, with a wild 21-point comeback with Rocket scoring a touchdown. The next time was Michael Irvin getting hurt and being left in Philly, never played again. We thought, he had the neck injury, and they lost the game to the Eagles. And I'm telling you, on the plane right after the game, it was exactly the same. So that just showed me right then that after the game, you can't judge these players for kind of what you're seeing because they handle it differently.
Nick Eatman from DallasCowboys.com joining us here on the Fan. Nick, if you're Jerry sitting in that Monday meeting today with the coaching staff, what is the number one thing that you're saying, hey, I need an answer on this? Like you guys need to provide a reasonable answer as to why this is happening.
Would be bad radio if I said the same answer 4 times. So I'm going to
pass rush
part. That's a given. Assuming they're going to fix that V problem. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right about the secondary, and the communication, figuring out, are we playing the best players? I mean, like that's you have to ask that. Are we playing the best guys at safety? Are we playing? I mean, at corner, you don't have a lot of options. And then on the offensive side of the ball, you figure out what's going to happen. I mean, probably take one play out of the playbook, with the sweep to your star receiver. And I get that. I mean, I'm not trying to be overly critical of that, but because we've seen it in the past, and yeah, okay, and other teams do it and it works for them, but I just think you're asking for it when you're putting CD with the way he look, his stature, and you're putting him, exposing him to linebackers, defensive ends, things like that. That's the kind of play that's going to happen. I doubt we see that again.
All right, I'm going to throw a lot at you with this final one here. Rappaport is saying the Cowboys believe CD suffered a high ankle sprain, not as bad as it originally seemed. Are you concerned about his status for the Packers? Why didn't Clowney play, and did his legal status with the arrest in South Carolina have anything to do with that? Is it going to be a thing?
I did not think that the Clowney thing had anything to do with legal. I thought it had more to do with conditioning and not being ready. Yep. But we'll see what happens with that. As for CD, I'm only going off of what I've kind of seen precedent in the past. And the fact that he was shut down early, that makes me think he probably won't play in the game. And I obviously am not a doctor, and I know what CD said and all that, but I've heard players say that before. But the fact that, even some of them were saying he could have come back, he could have played, well, then why didn't he? It was a huge game.
Yes.
Week 3 games can be huge, especially when you're playing a bad Bears team and who's already been beaten twice by teams that you have to play. This was a huge game. So why, if he could have come back and played, why didn't he? It makes me think that really he probably, he couldn't, and it's probably going to be a little bit, because usually when it's that early, kind of like Cooper Beebe last week, when they just kind of say, no, you're not going back in, I have a hard time thinking he's going to come back the next week. But then again, I hope he does, and I hope it's for the right reasons and all that, and that he comes back. But I don't know. I would lean towards him not playing.
Thank you, Nick. We'll talk who on Wednesday. Appreciate it.
All right, see you guys.
And I'm just going to do a quick recap of the Cowboys game yesterday.
What the F just happened?
Yeah.
That's basically my recap of it.
Yeah, I don't... Look, man.
That was from Not Another Teen Movie when the game ends, and he's like, what the F just happened?
Yeah, and I told Bobby in the break, I thought that Donovan Ezeraku was just going to come in here and be awesome straight away, even though I know, historically, that's not necessarily how it works, especially for not first-round rookies. Yeah, but the communication's terrible. Trayvon Diggs, even if he wouldn't have slipped, feels like he wouldn't have made that coverage on man-to-man anyway.
Because you just don't believe now?
Yeah, pretty much.
There's no Ted Lasso sign in your heart right now that says believe?
No, there is, but I feel like Coach Nate right now, after that performance, I'd have torn it down and been like, hey, maybe next season.
Maybe next year, guys.
It was just an S show across the board, and it's so weird. The one thing we all thought, hey, we really need to get this taken care of is the run defense. And then you're like, oh, hey, that doesn't look so bad. But everything around you otherwise is on fire.
Because why would anybody have to run the ball whenever they can throw the ball the way that they are?
That's a good point. I was not aware of that statistic that Bobby threw out there of 74% completion percentage.
Isn't that crazy?
That is astonishingly terrible.
Yeah.
I am stunned, and I feel like that backs up what we have all seen in the games, but still to just hear it out loud, it's horrifying. The quarterback rating being 40 points higher, that is shocking.
Okay, Kevin, let's ask the Tolos right now. Text it in, 877-881-1053. What was the worst part of the defense? Just give us a thing. Just give us what was the worst one? Because I feel like we're going to get multiple answers, and I feel like also somebody's going to text in Dak. That wasn't the question, but I feel like somebody's going to text that in because I know how this thing works.
That's probably true.
So, and you know what? That being said, I got a thought on Dak later in the show for no thank you notes because there is somewhere that he stands that I'm not very pleased with at the moment.
I would also say I'm sure Dak has some no thank you notes for his receivers. Just hold on
catch
to the
ball, people. Please catch the ball.
Or let it hit the ground.
If it hits your hands, you're a receiver. You're paid to do this thing.
Yeah.
Watching Pickens, is it sulk? Is it that was the moment yesterday? He's mad at himself. I get it. I understand it. But you're just sitting there throwing a tantrum on the sideline when I don't think that's necessary. Catch the ball.
Okay, you're probably right about that.
You're acting like a baby.
I do have to say, on a day when I think there's a whole lot of things to complain about, that didn't bother me as much because it felt like
he pointing things out.
He gave a damn.
Okay.
Like that, and we don't have to agree on that.
Give a damn to catch the ball.
That's just me. You know what? Cowboys 3 defenders off of a deflected pass who seem to saunter towards the ball and not give full effort and definitely don't dive to get an interception. I'm talking about those people, man. The ball was up in the air for 10,000 hours, and they had 3 people who all saw it and all seemed to converge on it in slow motion and let the ball fall on a time when you kind of wondered, would a dive have meant an interception?
Was that ball in the air longer than the flea flicker pass? Because that felt like it hung in the air for a while.
Look, I've long been a proponent.
You love the flea
running
flicker. You're like, let's play it. Kevin wants to run the flea flicker every single first play of every game because he's like, why would anybody ever expect?
See, and that's what I think I fell into a trap when they were like, you only get one time to roll out your first attempt at all of this. I really thought it was going to be something dramatic like that, first play flea flicker, and you're like, what in the world just happened? I can hear Brad Sham making the call. But that part of the defensive effort aside, I'm not going to say that was the number one problem whatsoever. This, to me, it's the secondary. If you think it's the pass rush, I'll certainly listen to that.
Pass rush does not help the secondary at all, by any means.
The secondary looks horrible. And the 2 times you tried to take the things that we all wanted, which was man-to-man coverage, I will admit, I was pretty high on that, and blitzing. I think he did that for a total of 12 plays, and it worked poorly for you. That's my general synopsis of what happened in those 12 plays. Yeah, you had Caleb Williams with a quarterback rating of more than 100 on those 12 plays. It worked poorly for you, whether it's Trayvon Diggs falling down, whether it's Donovan Wilson struggling to understand which players to break off of, or whether it's other cornerbacks leaving him hanging out to dry. I did think there was one play where there was 2 open receivers and he picked one, and of course the quarterback's like, then I'm going to throw it to the other one. That just is common sense when it comes to football, and I'm not going to put that all on him, but he has been struggling out there as well. And then from the 3-1-3, the players were the biggest problem. That's a fair.
That's where listening to Bobby I do feel like I'm running in circles a couple times because the message I'm hearing is that the guys basically he said this earlier, going into the huddle, and it's like, okay, what's the play? Go do it now. And you're like, but they don't know the play, and so I can't decide. Do you not know who your corners are all week, and that's a problem?
Right.
And you don't teach them the right way. Kevin, when it comes to hearing the story about Caleb Williams and how terrible he was, and it was all these other coaches that are basically blaming Caleb Williams on them being fired, now I'm looking at this going, hold on, this team looks as unprepared as Caleb Williams seemed to be unprepared.
Right.
Was the equal factor not you in this situation? Because these guys don't look prepared. They look like they have never played this kind of defense before in their lives, let alone been taught it all week compared to the players that they're going to be playing against. So that is where I do see a lot of lack in whatever the coach is giving these players in that information. Or maybe they are just not good enough to play in the system. One of those two things can be true. It could be both of them. And you know what? The only hope we have is that, like last year, the defense becomes a stronger thing at some point. Because right now, it has started off very poorly. Maybe you shouldn't run your preseason with a 7-iron the whole time.
Yeah, and I know the company line. I understand it. We've already heard it preemptively from both Steven and Jerry. We challenged them on that last week, but Land is out. He's coming back. Revel, who I don't know if you heard, might be the greatest cornerback ever drafted. I
think he could be really good. I don't think that, though.
Yeah, he's on his way back, despite the fact that he's never actually practiced in the NFL, but he'll just be ready to go.
Nor has he
away.
ever played in the NFL.
But he'll just be ready to go straight away. And then we've got Jadeveon, don't hassle me about a parking ticket, man, Clowney, coming back. And so those three things, you just watch. That's what's going to happen. And we've already started to challenge. We'll do so again. If that is the line we are fed at noon, or it's going to come down to communication and execution. And I agree that communication and execution matter, but to insinuate that that's going to change everything, that feels like a big swing.
Hopefully it can change something, at least part of the thing, because, Kevin, that would be 15. Let's say they just cut it in half and it was 15 points. I mean, you still lost.
Yes.
But it could cut that in half and it would just be 1 point loss from the 6-8-2. Man, your $60 million quarterback put up 14. Put up one touchdown. The 14, the other points, those are from Aubrey. We'll give those to Aubrey. I can't give those to the offense right now.
That's true.
The offense, I don't know how you were able to only score one touchdown.
Okay, so I'm really glad that you said that, because there was something
other than players not doing their jobs.
And I'm sorry if this is impeding on what you were going to say later, but we can dive into this as well. It's really agitating is the statement where Dak says, I don't think anybody can stop our offense. And he's like, if you
Except
look
for our offense.
Yeah, if you look at all the problems, it's us stopping us. And I'm like, okay.
Javonte Williams fumble on the first drive.
My goodness.
On what looked like was going to, it looked like at that moment, I was like, we're going to run on these dudes.
Yes.
All day long.
Yes.
And they're not going to be able to stop us. I was like, finally, this offense is back to what it can do. Its strength is going to be running the football. Two big significant moments, Kevin. We discussed this earlier. Significant moments in these two losses the Cowboys have are a Miles Sanders fumble and a Javonte Williams fumble to start the game. I know you had plenty of time from there on to recover from that. You absolutely had plenty of time, except for maybe there was a big play that happened right in your face after that. But you had plenty of time. But that play right there was setting the tone for the day. And the tone was set of, well, we fumbled.
Yeah, and I can't help but wonder on both of those. Like, I saw somebody just text in, the Cowboys should be 0-3, and I totally get that. That is absolutely fair. We talked in depth last week about the Giants game, but I think about those two fumbles in particular. That Miles Sanders one was really crushing, and you go back and you wonder, like, man, could they have won that game? Yes. Should they have won that game? I think that is open for some discussion. I think they should have. And then you wonder if Javonte Williams doesn't get the ball just ripped out of his hands yesterday if you set a different tone and the flow of the game is different. That's tough to argue given what I saw from the defense, but I do think about that just a little bit, that in 3 games, you have 2 just crushing turnovers from your running backs. And that is just yet another agitating part of this entire thing. They're 1-2. I would listen to so many different reasons of why they are 1-2, but I'll continue to go back to the secondary. And if the secondary wants to pop on and call the hotline, let us know. And they're like, hey, it would be great if a pass rusher could get there. I hear you. Like I said, I thought Donovan Azaraku was going to come in and hit the ground running. I know there was a lot of positive talk about Sam Williams, and he's made a play here or there, but sometimes there are other things that he does that kind of negate that.
Azaraku's a long way away from being
for sure
a legit. Kevin, that goes to what Steven said last week. We're evolving. We're growing. We're evolving. This is a young. They are young players. The Cowboys expected for these guys to hit the ground running, like you just said.
Right.
But last year, what happened? They expected Tyler Guyton and Cooper Beebe to hit the ground running. And then by midseason, they said, guys, they changed the tune on that real quickly. And we're like, guys, look, we kind of expected that this would happen. And right now, they're kind of going to have to go, we kind of expected we'd take a massive step back defensively, but that we were going to be able to scheme up a better scheme than we have right now.
And I saw someone reference the Dak interception in the end zone, and I get it. That was super confusing. But on that one, I was like, I kind of just felt like the game was over anyway, because I feel like I'd been beaten down by most of the game. Maybe you think they make the score there, either onside kick or they get a quick defensive stop. Maybe they could have turned that around. But I guess I don't put as much stock in that, just because I think the game was already lost at that point. But you're right. That was a bad pass.
I do. Man, there were 8 plays of Joe Milton that I was like, oh my God. And then one player, I was like, oh yeah, that's right.
Was it Span Ford where he almost took his head off? And early thank you note to Brevin Span Ford for catching that ball. I know he would go on to make the high jump, and that was impressive. That ball looked like it was thrown 8,000 miles an hour for a 6-yard pass, and that's something
how Joe Milton did.
Yes, that's something we talked about a lot in training camp.
I know the focus kind of still is on what happened yesterday, and we're not to next week yet. And Kevin, the embarrassing loss for the Packers, that's against one of maybe the league's best defense right now. I have no clue how terrifying it's going to look on Sunday night when Jordan Love decides to just drop back and throw it downfield all day.
Right.
And he doesn't have Jaden Reed. He only has Romeo Doubs and all the other guys that they throw out there. But the more I look at down the road on this thing, the more terrified I get of, if it's not any better than it was yesterday, then this is going to be a historically miserable season for everybody involved. And they got to figure that out very quickly.
Cowboys at 1-2. Is there any saving this season? The Franklin Injury Attorney text line is open for you at 877-881-1053. Seems like a lot of issues to get corralled here if you want to come back and have any sort of success. I guess after the Packers, you're going to get the Jets and Panthers, so maybe they can get some momentum built by then. General at your service. What do you think? There's Broadus, the former Cowboy scout, the Super Bowl champion. Krusty's Corners coming up at 3:40 with his film takeaways. Of course, we're going to do a lot of those right here. Lucius Alexander's in the Pimp Cup over there. Master Control here, 75 and Fitz. You fixing to go full 5 today. Rangers have the day off. We'll give you 5 hours of sports. Cowboys Hour coming up at 7 o'clock with Brad Sham and Cavante Turpin. Should be interesting. Wolchuk and Chiafalo are here. Carter Freeman coordinating your video. You can watch us at 105throughthefan.com, Twitch, and YouTube. A little bit of breaking news. Nick Bosa did suffer a season-ending torn ACL during their win over the Cardinals. Clean tear. Bosa will need season-ending surgery, so that's a tough one for them. Cowboys dealing with their own injury, of course, there with CeeDee Lamb. Conflicting reports, when you can walk off and you try to come back in and you can jog but just not cut, I feel like that's a couple of weaker. But the 4 to 6 weeks thing is out there on social right now. Brian, what are you hearing?
The several weeks is what I heard. I never got a specific number, but I did get the high ankle sprain like people were talking about. But I never got a pin down on the number.
Well, Archer just put out a few minutes ago 3 to 4 weeks. 3 to 4. Okay.
Which would mean if it's 3, you get him back for Washington. If it's 4, hopefully the Broncos game.
It really doesn't matter because in back-to-back weeks, you had Russell Wilson and Caleb Williams put up their best games of the season probably against you is what we're looking at. Then the Giants, they go play Kansas City, who's got a good but not great defense. They're a 1-touchdown team again, sitting there with 9 points, single-digit points. I just don't know how this defense got so bad. Like all of these picks you've invested in, you finally fixed defensive tackle. We're used to linebacker being just mid or maybe even below average. But I guess Trayvon Diggs not being able to come back from the microfracture surgery and be anything close to what he was at his peak. I guess the Deron Bland injury there, the pass rush not really having anything. It's got to be one of the worst group of pass rushers in the NFL, at least if you're grading on a curve.
Misevaluated that. But before they made the trade, you probably felt like that you could kind of put things together. What was Stephen Jones's line?
Simulated pressure.
Well,
manufactured pressure.
Bingo. That was it. And that's Matt Eberflus talking to Stephen Jones, Jerry Jones, and he's saying Flus can manufacture pressure. That has been the one thing that has been ringingly wrong about this team. They cannot manufacture pressure with rushing forward the way they are. They went into this trade feeling like that they could do that with the guys they had. That's where the misevaluation has been. It's you talk about stopping the run. Well, what stops the run is you scoring a massive amount of points on somebody. Dallas got it happen to him yesterday. We're all super happy about the run game right now, right?
Yeah.
Cowboy run game.
Both sides.
7.8 yards a carry. You got beat by what? 17 points? So that's kind of where you're at right now. The run game stuff, run defense and all that stuff doesn't matter when you're struggling to be able to get people off the field. And the one thing that how Dallas is going to win these games is they're going to have to outscore people, and they're going to have to hope what happens in the Giants game, they get a stop or they get two stops and they get maybe a turnover. That's really how that's how the Bears beat you yesterday. They got stops and they got turnovers. And that ultimately was, and they made you punt twice in the game. So that's how you're going to lose football games if Dallas's offense is not good enough, because their defense clearly is, and we knew going in this game it wasn't good enough.
Yeah, they're tied for the worst in terms of turnover differential entering tonight's game with the Dolphins, so that's not good. But to me, how did this defense get so bad? They have 25 picks on defense since 2021, not including this past draft. 15 of those picks are no longer on the team. Marshawn Nealand and Maris Leofau, I don't know. We'll see about them. Mozzie, Sam Williams, Damone Clark, not good. Bland, Overshown, hurt. Diggs supposed to be one of your better players. He's been hurt. He's not playing well.
No training camp.
Osa Digizua, probably your most consistent. That's the one. And even he's not making a noticeable impact. King Bisote is not on the team, and you just drafted him this past year. So Shamar James, Jay Toia, inactive yesterday. Those are guys that you just took. Ravel and Easy, we'll see. And then you traded Micah Parsons. But for a team that's draft and develop, they haven't drafted well enough on defense. And now you're starting to see a talent-deficient team on that side of the ball.
Fair.
Yeah, one of the worst defenses we've ever seen. I think this might be worse than the 2020 group.
Oh, that was a historically bad defense. And you're absolutely right about that.
Yeah, we're heading that way.
Yeah.
And I think offensively, we can be optimistic about what it'll look like when CeeDee Lamb is back, but there's no guarantee. Your offense isn't so good that you can rubber stamp it. Hey, it's a bad defense. You're going to go light them up. I think the tackles struggle so much to contain pressure that if you're up against a team that can pressure you, that does have good ends, I think that's going to negate your good offense. So I feel like every week I've downgraded how many wins I think they're going to get, and now I'm in the 5 to 7 range. I think 7's best case scenario. Your defense is going to be so bad, you're going to go up against bad offenses all year long, and Bryce Young, that's 375 yards and 4 touchdowns. That's how bad this is. These quarterbacks will never see a group of corners as bad as what the Cowboys are going to be trotting out there, and I guess that'll change a little bit with Deron Bland, but still, 2 of your other guys are going to be blinking easy lights, and the safeties don't offer much help.
Well, see, and we thought the same thing going into the game about the Bears, and you didn't take advantage of that.
Nope.
So that's the trade-off right there. Dallas has to be almost perfect on offense in order for them to have any chance right now to win these games. And that's unfortunate. We're putting a lot on Dak. People are saying, well, damn, that's his job. He's the quarterback. You should. Well, the guy that you got playing the best right now is Williams at running back. We'll see what happens with these receivers with Lamb being out the next 3 weeks or so. But they're the only chances they're really going to have is to figure some things out with the running game. Maybe they can kind of keep people at arm's length with their running game a little bit and give their defense a break. But that's kind of where they're. But it's going to be now about scoring somehow every possession.
Yeah.
Because you're in a mode right now where your defense can just not hold up, and I don't know if it's communication, it's scheme, coaching, players, but man, there's some things on that film yesterday I was watching, and there it looked like to me down there when DJ Moore was wide open. Zach, help me here. You watched, I know. The thing is that I couldn't tell if they were playing half the field was man and half the field was zone.
You have a ton of confusion.
I couldn't even diagram what they were trying to do.
Yeah, and then guys are biting on the run fakes. They're sliding to where now you're creating a wide open wide receiver. People are biting on the wrong routes underneath, thinking maybe they've got help on the backside. They don't. It's tough. It is. I mean, you've got one half of the field looks like maybe they're playing cover 3, the other's trying to play cover 1.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a ton of. I mean, there's times where
and that could be intentional.
Maybe.
That's a tactic that DCs are using.
Yeah, well,
and maybe that's what they're talking about where the confusion is. Because like last week when we're hearing out of the locker room where players are like, yeah, this is more confusing than it was last year with Zim, and we're looking at each other like, well, how the hell hard is cover 2? Maybe that is. Maybe that's what it is. And when Shoddy's talking about simplifying things, maybe that is what they need to do. Because right now it ain't working.
No, and there's just a general lack of awareness when they're in zone, the way that players are moving behind them. They're not checking their shoulders to figure out where the targets are. I mean, it looks bad. And then, on top of that, at best, you have, guys that I guess can cover a little bit in man, but still they're very vulnerable there as well. So, where does this go from here at 877-881-1053? Can you believe how bad this group of Cowboys is there's just nobody on the edge, no linebacker, no corner that you feel good about, and there's no reason to believe this changes. So it's only week 4, Brian. Mm-hmm. Have people been reaching out to you about covering this draft already and what could be possible?
Yeah, that's when I know that people have asked. I've been tagged in a lot. When does draft show start and all that? But yeah, it's it's unfortunate that every game it looks like it's a little closer to maybe having to get something started like that, and we're only 3 weeks in. But yeah, it just I don't see
it should be a good spot to take an edge or a tackle or a corner.
Yeah, and the thing you might want to worry about if you're a Cowboy fan is, would Jerry Jones make a move with one of these picks on a team that might not be good enough to go make a move for one of these picks?
I think if you could get a corner and an edge, you might be talking. Get a corner, an edge, and a great linebacker, and I think that would fix this defense. So it's just a matter of how aggressive you want to be, but you would have to do all 3 of those.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Are you interested in moving one of those? Okay.
Yeah, I would do it.
Yeah. If you're moving your own pick, considering your own pick here, the way it looks right now, you look like you're going to pick in the top 5.
Yeah.
I would be really careful with that. I would be really, really careful if, in fact, that you move.
Yeah, we're going to need a great player.
And you move your own pick, and then all of a sudden, you're going to need a great player out of this. You don't. If you move Green Bay's pick, that might be a little bit different story. That's a different area code you're talking about.
And the Joneses are out here selling. They're saying, we'll move our picks. Jerry's saying, yeah, we're still a playoff team. Steven today on K&C saying it's not a talent thing, it's execution. I think that is the biggest batch of BS that they've spun all year.
Totally.
And there's been a lot of BS spinning going on. So I think what I want them to be processing is this is a great rebuild year. You look at the schedule. It's not meant to be. You're going to be bad some years in the NFL. If we embrace that, don't rush guys back from injury, develop guys, then have a top 5 pick, you could get an outstanding edge. You could replace Micah Parsons, or you could replace Terrence Steele. There's a lot of things you could do.
But now Zach's got me nervous about how they've been drafting defensively.
That just hasn't been.
It's not been great.
Hasn't been
that's
good.
And then that's the thing. It looks like to me that the Booker and the Tyler Smiths, we'll see with Guyton. I felt like personally in the game, watching the tape, I kind of felt like Steele was worse than what Guyton was.
Steele was bad.
In pass protection, he was not good at all.
And that's where I even tweeted out too that I felt like that maybe this might be a week that you think about Nate Thomas. Nate, to me, Steele and Micah Parsons just does not seem very good right now. That doesn't seem like a really good matchup for me right now. But I might consider somebody with a little bit more power over there, like a Nate Thomas, somebody like that, a little bit bigger guy. It just, you can't just keep getting compressed like Steele has been. He can't set his feet. He's not strong enough. It's just now the run blocking stuff. Actually, there's been some good things of him doing that, but the pass protection stuff is really making me kind of nervous.
Good things that happened in the game. 121 yards on 20 carries. It was Javonte Williams, 10 carries for 76 yards. I do feel like, 2-1, way too many passes. We know just teams in general, the more they pass, it doesn't bode well for their success. But I would love to see them optimize a game plan around running the ball. I think with CD and Pickens and them telling themselves that Dak's an MVP candidate, I think they get a little bit carried away with trying to design too much of a pass-first offense.
They really have no choice, though, to be honest with you. I mean, they got behind. I mean, they got back in the game with some balance, but then all of a sudden that offense, and maybe it is running when you're tied. Maybe it is running the ball more, or trying to do more of that. I know one thing. If I got down to the goal line on that fourth down, that interception, I'm running the ball twice.
Yeah.
I don't know why you have to
run
get
the fade.
I don't know why you get cute down there, but yeah, I agree with you, Dawson. I just wonder if you get behind, it forces you to play. It takes you out of the run game stuff.
Yeah.
Because you're behind and you're like, okay, great. We're just going to keep grinding out. And the next you know, it's like what the Bears did to you with that drive, and you take 8 minutes off the clock and now you're still behind, in the game. But I like what you're trying to say. I think running the ball is a good thing.
If you're going to be down 3 scores in the fourth quarter, I get passing at that point.
Sure.
But going forward without CeeDee Lamb, there's got to be a concerted effort. Like, what else can we do to try to ramp up this run game and get more ball control going on, keep this defense off the field?
Problem is,
keep them off.
Yeah, the problem is you're going to probably have to go on drives where you have to be perfect, and
there's no margin for error for the offense.
There's no, and the one thing that sets you back, they had to punt one time because they had a holding penalty.
And then the sack to start the second half. They were moving the ball. They get around midfield.
Yeah.
You have that big sack, and that ruined the entire drive. And from that point on, the game was over.
To his point,
They were running the
ball makes you not have to.
I thought they actually had pretty decent balance when it was 14-14.
Yeah.
And then it was just wheels off.
Jake Ferguson, our guy, had another 13 catches. Dude has, 27 catches now in 3 games. Would like a little bit more big play factor from it, but
A lot more.
well, it would.
The Yak's just not. He can't make a man miss. I put that in the notes to ask him on Thursday. Hopefully, he doesn't get ticked off.
It seems like the offense is built around let's try and get Ferguson the ball at the line of scrimmage.
Well, yeah, there were a couple of times we'll talk about they threw the ball into a blitz. It's one of those things, you get a slot blitz and they're throwing it basically hot is what they're doing. Dak's just trying to kind of get rid of it. But, man, I swear, when people go back and watch the tape, you're going to see how many spots or opportunities where they had exactly what happened with Turpin, that they didn't do that.
Turpin down the sideline or Turpin on that over route?
What you have is the we call the hole shot. It's between the safety on that cover 2 safety and the corner, and you throw it right. You just run right into that hole and you throw it in there, and then it's exactly how it worked. It worked perfectly, and they had some opportunities to get more of those. They had an exchange route too with Tolbert. That, I mean, they switched routes with him and Pickens, and it went up to silence, and Dak checked it down. And that's you got to try and make that throw down the field if you can. But he might not trust the line completely. He might not trust Steele completely or Guyton, to make those throws. But it's a little unfortunate they left some of those plays out on the field.